What's going on, ladies and gents? Welcome to Collectors Gone Digital. My name is Josh, and on today's episode, we're talking about different ways the team can introduce utility for our digital collectibles on VeVe. Now, as of right now, I do plan on doing a little live stream after this episode. I want to show some of the behind the scenes work of me putting together some of the maps I plan on introducing for the community to run a little tournament. But if you guys are interested in that stuff, I will be streaming it on X, YouTube, and Twitch. And if you guys don't follow me on Twitch, link is in the description. But without further ado, grab a drink, grab a snack, sit back, relax, and enjoy. Alright, so with me building some of these maps recently, it's got me thinking about gated sections again. So I made a map that has a bunch of interactive features, but one of them is a vault system. So after 15 minutes of gameplay, 2 islands will spawn in the middle. And on these islands are where you can grab one of 2 key cards. Each one of these key cards is going to unlock a vault back at the team's base. And until you scan the proper key card, the door is going to remain locked with the lights turned off. When you do end up scanning that proper key card, the opposite will happen. The door unlocks, lights are triggered, they turn on, and you can walk inside. Now, these interactive features or these gated spaces are not only something that's already been talked about by certain team members like Alex, but at this point, I think it's a given that this is something that needs to be inside the VeVeverse. Now, we do know the team is already building things like a Marvel showroom, but if this isn't implemented by the team right away, I do see this being done by the community. People like, for example, Mr. MC1. Where in a physical space, we're already seeing these gates being used, right? VeVe gold and silver logo events, where the only way you can knock that gate down is if you buy the logo. So when you take something like that and you transfer it into a virtual environment, now you're going to start seeing things like private lounges, clubs, themed rooms being built by people in the community, like I said, if the team doesn't build them right away. Like we already see with the gold and silver logo and the red and silver 𝗘𝗍𝗄𝗎 logo, the exclusivity can enhance the perceived value of that collectible and then provide a sense of community and prestige. The merchandise associated with those clubs helps with that as well. Next up on the list, I have customizable avatars. So we know VeVe's getting involved in sports. We know they're getting involved in music. David was recently asked if they want to get involved with fashion, and his short answer to that was yes. Not surprising since we already have Givenchy and Christian Louis. But allow the NFT you just grabbed to unlock customization options for your avatar. VeVe also just unveiled accessories for the first time with the little mermaid drop. We also know 𝗕𝗿𝗏𝗍 allows you to change your avatar. It allows you to upload different files. 𝗕𝗿𝗏𝗍 being the platform and team building the VeVeverse, at least to my knowledge still. So VeVe's drop clothing. Drop more, pair it to your avatar. Even avatar skins that are themed around the collectible. And this is something that Fortnite does really well, where they drop a collectible and then they have a matching skin for the weapon. If the team provides utility around the character that we play as inside the VeVeverse, this will enhance identity and expression within the world. And in many respects, in one of the biggest ways, because you can express yourself via the artwork that you hang in your virtual space. But even in a virtual environment, that artwork doesn't follow your avatar everywhere you go. So next up on the list, I have real estate. So offer collectibles that represent ownership of virtual land or properties in the VeVeverse. And the collectible could be the property itself. So think the Avengers Tower, the Up House, the new Cars V8 Cafe. But think about taking it a step further. So being able to use these properties in different ways, where owners can build, customize, upgrade, or rent out to other users. Now this would provide a long-term utility, which would help some users stick more than others. But it also provides a potential to generate revenue on both the user and company side. Now, some of today's talking points might seem a little repetitive from stuff we talked about in the past, and it's because I want to dive deeper into some of these topics. So for example, access to events. We've kind of already talked about this one. We have talked about concerts as well, movie screenings and Q&A sessions, maybe not so much. But here's another really good one. Let's say VeVe hosts an event to unveil their next big drop. They build out the space, it's all themed to what the collectible is. But because it's Viz Media's first drop, it's Ultraman Volume Number 1, and it's the same suit that they dropped all the way back in Season 1, you can already collect it as a collectible. Maybe only the people who have completed that first set qualify for the launch event inside the VeVeverse, where they can actually attend it and see a copy of Ultraman Volume Number 1 displayed with a nice spotlight above it. Maybe they have 𝗘𝗵𝗵_HIs in there talking about the comic, and it's a private event that's limited to only those who have taken the time to complete and collect the first set. Otherwise, if you haven't done that, then you're limited to just seeing it on the Medium article until it drops on the app. It's these kinds of examples that, in my opinion, really show you the importance behind the VeVeverse and how much that platform is going to complement the collectibles that we're collecting now. Next up, gaming perks. And gaming is where I think all of this is going. So on the right hand side, if you guys are familiar with it, you know what it is already. That is the 𝗘𝗵𝗵𝗏 game, very similar to Clash Royale. And I've replaced the character on the front, who's traditionally just holding a sword and armor, with the new Miles Morales Mighty. So in other words, integrate collectibles into associated games. I'm not saying use the Mighties in this game. I know VeVe is associated with them. These are the guys that minted the 𝗕𝗏𝗍 collectible. Shout out to the people holding one of those. But every time I think about games, and I think this goes for a lot of people in the community, I think of the Mighties and how you can just, add different abilities for each one. You can make a traditional trading card game out of them. You could do a platformer game like Super Smash Brothers to a game like Clash Royale, or even Clash of Clans if you guys know that one. Might I also remind everyone watching that the Ghostbusters Slimer interacts with the Ghost Trap. We have the Lambo, the James Bond Aston Martin, the DeLorean, among others that are drivable, as well as interactive pieces where you can put them in multiple poses like Iron Man and Astro Boy. Cavernous is also compatible with two game engines, the two biggest gaming engines, Unity and Unreal Engine. Not to mention they have a partnership with Epic Games, who I don't think needs an introduction. So if you zoom out and you look at the whole painting, I'll end it with how I started. It's all leading to gaming. Next up on the list, I got upgrades, and I already talked about customizing homes and upgrading homes, maybe taking away a room here, adding a balcony there. But what's also exciting is knowing that VeVe is capable of doing this, because they've done it with pieces in the past. An example, Amelia Earhart. Amelia Earhart was part of the Series 1 Rewind Collective set, but her alongside Cleopatra were actually static cards. They did not move. Now, if we fast forward to when VeVe dropped the Series 2 set, with Frida Kahlo, Queen Elizabeth, and more, all of the cards in that set were animated, but they didn't match the first two. And so VeVe updated Amelia Earhart and Cleopatra. Those two collectibles are completely different from when they dropped. When I think about upgrades, I also can't help but think about the scene in Ready Player One where they go to the market and just start buying different equipment. Yes, Artemis could buy, new stuff, but there were also scenes where he was swiping and looking at the different upgrades. I know that's a controversial point because people are like, oh, VeVe's never going to be Ready Player One, but I'm also aware of the people who didn't like that VeVe upgraded the collectible because they were like, well, if it's an NFT and you own it, they shouldn't be able to do that. But now that brings us to the whole centralized versus decentralized debate, which I'm not going to get into. Let me know down below though, would you guys be for or against upgrades? So next up, educational opportunities. So gain access to exclusive materials, courses, tutorials, diagrams. I think of the James Bond artwork that kind of breaks down the glider and things like that. There's also a bunch for Star Wars. Things that are relevant to the collectibles themes or brands. Now, to anybody who's got their eyebrows raised right now being like, who on earth would want this? I'll be the first one with my hands in the air saying, I would. So yeah, there is a market out there. Next up, they can provide some utility with social status or ranking in the leaderboards. We have a member on our Discord who just got recognition for another 1,200 purchases. I say another because it's not their first time doing it. But have they gotten any recognition? Unfortunately not, right? Not even a badge. I mean, 1,200 purchases in 7 days, like do the math on that. That's a lot. I've even heard David say at one point that collecting is sometimes about the bragging rights. And there's plenty of people in our community that love talking about their collections. So I feel that if I have taken the time to click the buy now button 1,200 times in a week, there should be some sort of utility around that. It would enhance engagement and competition, and with our community, competition is a good thing. Next up, I'm not going to spend too much time on this one, and that's just because I know they've done it in the past. I am well aware of the argument about, oh, they're a collecting platform, they have no obligation to be donating money to any which company or charity. I do agree with that to a certain extent, but I am speaking from the perspective of resonating with your audience. And I feel like charity donations are a really good way of doing that. They're also currently doing a vote for a charity donation right now. I should point that out. But okay, so here's an example of a charitable donation that I would love to see VeVe make. If you look at the list of the 100+ brands that they have, one of them is Fast and Furious. And if they do end up dropping those collectibles and one of them is associated with Paul Walker, I would love to see a donation made to one of his charities. So that's an example of what I mean here. I feel like that would be something that a lot of people would look at as a positive thing. Last but not least, we're going to have an interesting one here. Hard to pull off, which is why I left it for last. But what if VeVe could introduce some form of utility that would allow the holder of the collectible to collaborate with the brand? That, to me, would be the peak of awesomeness. So allow the holders to participate in collaborative projects with a brand or artist. It could be a one-time thing with a larger brand or a recurring thing with a smaller independent artist. But you, as the holder of one of their pieces, get to contribute to the creation of their new content or products. And talk about resonating with your audience, that would just create a sense of like partnership. We're buying collectibles that, you know, are characters that we grew up with. But imagine if you can help with the creation of something you get on VeVe as well. Ladies and gents, that's going to conclude today's episode. I hope you enjoyed. Those are 10 different ways that the team can introduce utility with our collectibles, either now or in the future with the VeVeverse. As mentioned earlier, I'm going to try streaming after this episode, so keep an eye out for that if you are interested. And if you guys have any questions about the episode, feel free to ask me in the chat over there. But if you enjoy the content, make sure to like and subscribe. Comment down below what you want to see in a future episode. And as for our next, I will catch you then.